Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. Today is going to be a really great interview. We were actually talking for a while before we started this interview. I'm interviewing Tylox the Mighty, and we have something in common. We both love martial arts, and he does jiu-jitsu, I do judo, and we were just chatting about that beforehand. And we also have another interest in common, which is comics. And I met Tylox through Biggie Shack. He was doing a competition, and Tylox came on. We were competing, we're battling it out with various comics, and he had a pretty amazing collection. And the way he was able to pull out books really quick, and he just would pull out one awesome book after another. So I was like, hey, you got to come on my show. You got to do an interview because you got some cool stuff. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Tylox to the show. One sec here. Let's see if I can do this correctly. One sec here. And
hey, what's up, everybody?
hey. Now I got to see if I can get myself in here too.
Yep.
I keep on forgetting how to do this.
Struggle from the phone.
Yeah, this is always the challenge. Doing this on the phone is always a little bit more challenging.
Yeah.
Getting the it's like three dots. That's the way it works on the phone. It's like three dots, and you got to click in, and then you got to go to the right thing.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so thank you for coming.
I'm definitely down to do it. I've been watching your channel ever since I got back on YouTube. I've been watching your channel here and there and stuff like that.
Cool. So how did you get into comics, by the way? Like, what's your background in comics?
Just being a kid. Just when I was a kid, like the kid things to do when you're a young boy, growing up in America is comics, sports cards, playing sports and stuff like this. Just, when I was a kid, there were still comic books at gas stations and convenience stores.
Yeah. The spinner racks.
Yeah, spinner racks and all that stuff. So when I was a kid, it was nothing to go to somebody's house and they'd have a, shoebox full of comics or a shoebox full of sports cards, and you would go buy them. They're right there at the counter and stuff like that. You just buy them when you're buying candy and soda and stuff like that. So that's how we got into it. When I was a kid, it's just I read comics. I'm not an artist in any kind of which way. I can't draw hardly at all. So the fact that these guys and ladies can draw and make art the way they can always blew my mind. But then the stories were also great too, which is funny because it was like early 90s. Everybody thought, oh, the stories were horrible, but still, as a kid, you don't care. You're not into. You're just
cool. It's like all these crazy.
So like that's how I got into it. It's just normal everyday. We're taking a break from playing. Let's go by the store and get something to eat. Oh, there's comics. So,
and were there certain comics you liked more than others? Like, were you a Marvel guy or DC guy or independent?
I think I've always been more of a Marvel guy, but that's I think just because of the characters that I was introduced to. But at the same time, when I was a kid, there was actually indie books too. Like Image had just started.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So like you would get stuff here and there, and you'll see when I show some books in my collection how much it varies. But I'm more of a Marvel guy. I was more of the Marvel comics. You had X-Men, you had Spider-Man, stuff like that. So. But I don't discriminate. If it's a good story and it's got good art with it and it's a character that I think is really cool, I go for it. I don't care.
And did you have the long box filled with X-Men #1s or?
No. There were definitely X-Men 1s around. I think everybody had a copy of X-Men 1. Spider-Man 1. Everybody had a copy of Spider-Man.
Exactly, yeah.
Spawn 1. A lot of ones,
Yeah. That the 90s were all about having that issue #1.
Yeah, it's funny because when I started seriously collecting in my late 20s, I had no idea about long boxes or short boxes. They were either just sitting out on nightstands or
Oh, okay. Very raw
boxes if you really cared, but there were no bags, no boards. No storage of any kind of way. Your parents would be like, oh, it's that stupid magazine again, and they'd throw it in your room and stuff like that. So I mean. We were pretty rough on them.
So your early comics are not in the best condition, is what you're saying?
I don't have any of the comics that I originally had as a kid. I literally think all of them either ended up getting destroyed or just disappearing, just, maybe yard sales or something. I don't know. They just ended up going away. And so all the stuff that I've got, I bought later. So you try to get good grades, but I mean, as long as I can read it and, it's complete, I'm happy.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So, how about you show some books? How about you show some of the?
Right. So we'll go. We'll go nostalgia. Since we were talking nostalgia and kid stuff, we'll go some of my favorite kid related stuff that I was into.
I'm gonna make you big, and so you can show properly.
All right. This is X-Men 234. This is a Mark Silvestri cover. So this is something that I would have definitely had. Let's see, 88. This was around. But I love this era of Marvel. Like X-Men was the thing. The cartoon was out when I was a kid, so everybody was an X-Men fan. Everybody had their favorites. Everybody loved Wolverine. I just think this is one of my favorite covers that I have in my collection so far. This is an awesome cover. Mark Silvestri knocking it out the park. All scrolled up. But along with that, to go with that, my favorite character from the cartoon show was Rogue. Beautiful redhead who's also, can fly, and she's super strong. She's super tough, and stuff like that. So I got her first appearance when I first started collecting. I love this book.
Other than the question mark, which is her, which is going to be her, right?
Yeah.
But is there in the panel above that? Is she in that panel as well? I always wondered. And I don't know if she's in there one of the heads.
No. Well, yeah, she is right here.
That's what I was wondering. That's what I was wondering.
Say, that's her. I'm pretty sure
that's
her.
what I was saying. I was asking people, is that Rogue? And you never, I know that she's on the cover, but I wasn't sure if that counted. I was just curious about that.
I do actually have her first full cover appearance. It's like another X-Men book, but it's only her third appearance because she also appeared in a ROM book as well.
That's right. I think ROM 3 or something weird like that, or one of those early ROMs. Yeah.
So that I had to get these two. I think this was the first key book that I think I ever bought when I started collecting. I got on eBay and I bought this for like $30.
I know it's so undervalued.
Undervalued. Yeah, I think it's because of the cover. It's not the great. Everybody's
it's it's one of the worst covers. That's the problem.
One of the worst ones. So also when I was a kid, there's this thing that came out that I was hugely into. If you ever meet my mom, you can ask her. I had to have all the toys. I had to have the pajamas, the bedclothes, tidy whities, the whole 9 yards. So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't have a lot of old issues. This is just one of my favorite covers that I have in my collection so far.
And that's the IDW run. They're doing a pretty good job, I find, of bringing back the Turtles and creating cool stories.
Yeah, some of the stories are just here and there. It's really weird because you got people who've been reading it since they were young, and they're like it's not the same as when I was reading it. But at the same time too, the stories are still decent. They're something that I want to go pick up the next issue to keep up with. This just happens to be a Kevin Eastman cover. I usually get Eastman covers.
Yeah. He's the guy. Yeah.
So I mean, he's got a great style. I need to start picking up some of the older issues, but they're actually especially you get into number ones, you're getting into 7th prints to pay a couple $100.
Yeah. So, but actually, if you buy the issues from around the original series from around issue 5 or 6, like a little bit early, but not quite the number 1. Obviously, it's crazy expensive, but. 6 and then to maybe 12 are actually pretty affordable, $20-$30 range. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're not that bad. So I think I need to just dig harder into it. When I get time this year, I'm focusing on something else. Yeah. Also, had to grab these two because these are definitely, like I said, when I was a kid, there was all these shows coming out, the cartoons coming out, but there was all this great marketing and stuff, and so you had shows like this that were insanely popular. This is the first appearance of Sergeant Slaughter. So the little
nice. I didn't know.
I was a big WWE fan. I watched the cartoon every morning before I went to school. So I picked this up last year in a lot for I think the lot was 5 books for $20 or something.
Oh wow. Wow, that's so cheap.
First appearance of Sergeant Slaughter in the newsstand. So
nice.
And this is a big boy book for me. This was huge when I was a kid too.
Oh yeah.
Transformers.
I had to get that book too when I got back into collecting again.
I had to. I got this last year, and I literally just was like, I have to. You know what? It's there. You know, I need to get a copy because like Transformers, GI Joe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they were like my everything when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know, He-Man. I've got He-Man #1 as well. I just didn't pull it, but He-Man. I was a huge He-Man fan. I've got He-Man #1 as well from DC. So I had to get all these nostalgia books, you know.
Yeah, me too. I bought a lot of those out of nostalgia. I loved the Transformers as a kid.
I don't want to miss out on one, so we'll go ahead and get to like one of the only slabbed books that I have. I don't have a lot of slabs, but I got this last year as well. This is definitely like Saturday morning cartoons. I always get one of my favorite characters, Darkwing Duck.
Oh, nice, Darkwing Duck.
Yeah,
they just recently came back out with Darkwing Duck. Darkwing Duck #1 just came out.
Yeah, and this is coming out in facsimile in March. So I was thinking about actually popping this open, but when I found out the facsimile is coming out, I was like, well, I'm just going to get
the keep it in the
and I'm just going to keep it slabbed. You know, there's no point to not, no point to unslab it now. And it's not like I'm opposed. It's not like I hate slabs. It's just, I like being able to read it. But since the facsimile is coming out.
Yeah, you can read. I always read stuff online, but.
I
like the idea of displaying it when it's in a slab. That's why.
Yeah. The only thing that I don't like is this one's got a bad Newton ring on it. I don't know if you can see. Oh, yeah. Kind of looks like a.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I can't really see it because my screen's too small, but that can be annoying.
Right here. But other than that, I mean, I don't care. I had to get this. This was so much nostalgia for me from when I was younger. Saturday morning cartoons.
I like Darkwing Duck. Yeah, I'm a big Disney kind of like all the different ducks.
And he was definitely Disney's version of Batman. It was.
Oh yeah, totally. It was like
Disney's version of Batman. So yeah, some other nostalgia stuff from when I was. That was when I was a kid. Like I'm saying, like 6, 7, 8, stuff like that. Then you start hitting 10. And you have a little bit different set of brain muscles. And so you start getting into other different kind of books that were around. When I was 10, it was like 95. So this was like Wizard magazines were everywhere. A lot of indie books and stuff like that. Image had started. So you had a lot of stuff like that coming out. So you would get stuff like this character.
Oh, Dawn.
Yeah. I'm a huge Michael Linsner fan.
Me too. I collect a lot of Linsner stuff.
I have a lot of Linsner stuff. The Red Sonja run that they were doing, every time there's a Linsner cover, I
have that on my pull list. Anything that he does, basically.
Basically, yeah, I'm a huge Linsner fan. And this was like the first work of his. I even have the Dawn sketchbook that he did. I found it for, cheap digging through a dollar bin or something like that, and I grabbed it.
The big one to get is the Cry for Dawn.
Cry for Dawn series. I'm always on the lookout for it. And now they're kind of getting expensive because
it's pretty pricey. And there's like there's actually there's somebody basically there's fake versions of it as well. You got to be careful. So yeah.
So and then
Dawn.
I got introduced, like I said, different set of brain muscles. So I started getting crushes on characters, and
Gen 13.
Gen 13, J. Scott Campbell.
Another thing I collect is all the J. Scott Campbell covers.
Yeah, and
I love the Spider-Man stuff too. So
yes, his Spider-Man stuff's incredible. I mean, I'm a huge fan of him. Period. Like anything he does, if I can, if I can afford it, I grab it. Just all the stuff that he does. But this was my first introduction to his work. This came out when I was a kid. I was a huge Gen 13 fan. I actually read the comics when I could find them here and there, but I was always reading articles in Wizard about Gen 13.
Yeah, it was hot back in the 90s. It just,
and Caitlin Fairchild totally had me wrapped around her little finger. I thought she was like the hottest thing since sliced bread. And then you start getting into weirder stuff when I was a kid. This came out when I was a kid.
Toxic Avenger.
Toxic Avenger. I loved B movies, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, all that kind of B movie.
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes is one of the best movies. It is like such an amazing movie. There's a scene in that I really love, where they're strategizing how to fight against the tomatoes, and they're in this really, really small room with that they can't actually fit into. Like they're trying to like sit down, but the table that they're in is bigger than the room almost. You know, it's like it's really just so brilliant the way that they did that. It's just so funny.
Yeah, and this kind of stuff was coming out, you know, in the early '90s too, where you had like, you know, Toxic Avenger, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. I'm sure there's Attack of the Killer Tomato comics, and if I ever run across some,
if there is, I love those too. Actually, I met the people that did Trauma. The movie. Yeah, they would, for some reason they always come out to the Comic Cons in Toronto.
For real?
So I was talking to them about the different things and Toxic Avenger and all this kind of stuff, and they're just really great people, really fun and kind of quirky. You know, they like.
Yeah, I mean, this show
they just like making funny movies. Yeah.
Yeah, even though this movie, it was a movie, it was a TV show. I know it was a TV show, but I'm pretty sure it was.
It was a movie. Yeah, it was a movie originally.
So like they milked it for everything it was worth. But even though this show and movie were supposed to be like a serious message about like pollution or something, don't roll around in nuclear waste and all this good stuff. It had so much camp to it. It was just so much fun. You couldn't be terrified of this guy because he was such a good character. That
when he's wearing a tutu.
Yeah, I mean, he was wearing a tutu, with a mop, and he looked like something crazy. So I mean, but you still couldn't be terrified of him as a kid. Like you felt for him, and you thought he was quirky and cool and fun.
Yeah. I like those. I like those B movies. I'm a big horror buff.
And then the last one from when I was a kid. This is what people will count, I guess, as the big boy. Yeah, Spawn #1.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody had a copy of this. Yeah. Everybody read it. Everybody loved it. Everybody thought it was really cool. It was really cool because your parents would look at it and think, oh, it's like Spider-Man, and they wouldn't think anything about it. But if you actually read this as a kid, it's definitely not a Spider-Man comic. This is yeah. So I mean, as a kid, you were I'm reading something I'm not supposed to be reading.
Yeah,
this guy's killing people. He's not just beating them up. He's going for broke on all these people. So and he's going after like actual like bad guys. It's not like super villains. It's just just all these horrible people in society. That's who he would end up going after. It wasn't just and then there had little angels and demons mixed in there as well. But yeah, this was huge. I mean, when this happened, everybody was like, he left Marvel and said, I don't want your money, I don't want your paycheck, and just started.
I know. He left big titles too. He left Spider-Man. I mean,
they gave him his own Spider-Man title. They did everything they could to keep him happy, and he's like, you know what? I'm just still not happy. I'm gonna do my own thing. And
yeah,
I think that was the first time as a kid, me being like, you know what? Maybe sometimes the highest paying thing or the most prestigious thing, maybe it isn't what's best for you. Maybe sometimes you have to just go your own road.
But he did well. I mean, he's actually the richest man in comics.
Yeah, and it's really funny how like he didn't pigeonhole himself like he did.
Yeah,
comics. He's done movies. He's done toys, the toy line. If you want to get Spawn right now, it's $2.99, and if you get a pull list from a shop, you usually get a discount. But cardstock covers, the great artists, stories are here and there, hit or miss.
Yeah.
Always top tier art, and it's $2.99. Like
I know he's always kept the price quite affordable for people. I thought that was quite admirable.
And usually it's only 2 covers. It's an A and a B.
Yeah,
like there's not a lot of incentives. Maybe if it's a big issue, something like that. Then there's other covers and stuff like that, but normally most issues A and B cover, and that's it.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think I don't like all these like variant covers and stuff. I think they've done it too much.
Like that Dynamite does it is because when Dynamite does a ton of variants, they only print what you order. They don't print everything that they have out there. The only way you get it printed is if you order it. So, but that's still a lot. It's still a lot of choices.
Yeah, no, I do love Dynamite. I do love all the different covers that they do, but it gets a bit much sometimes. Like where there's like 12 or so different covers for an issue. It's like,
and every issue has a variant of the Spider-Man 300 issue.
They've been doing that lately. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone. So.
Yeah, and then they also did the TMNT kind of things, like they had like homages to like all these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle things. But yeah, the one thing I always thought was interesting about Spawn was I don't know if Todd McFarlane thought that it would last. And because the first few issues were like there was always that clock that was counting down every time he used his power.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, someday he's gonna run out of power, and then they just got rid of that clock. Yeah, we'll just get I guess it's gonna last a bit longer.
That's the great thing with comics is nothing lasts forever. That character that died technically couldn't have died. You didn't see the body. So
yeah, I mean, Superman proved that no character is truly dead. What books are you chasing now? Like what's your kind of grail books that you're going after, or what's
this year I've got a few. A few years ago, I hit like a rough patch, and I sold some of my key books, and I'm trying to get most of those back.
Mm-hmm.
My I'll show you another book. It's one of my ASM books, keys that I have. I got it back. It's one of those. I'm looking for an ASM 300 first Venom. I need to get that back in my collection.
I sold that too, and I was so sad anyway. And then I bought it back later for 3 times the price.
Mine was like 5, and I sold it for not near what I'm going to have to pay to get it back now.
No, I mean, if you sold it like last year, then you're probably okay. Last year was the year to sell stuff.
It was a few years ago.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, that sucks. ASM 300, Secret Wars number 8. I had a copy of it, and I let it go. But that's easily, you can get those back. And Nova number 1. I'm a huge Nova fan. I like Nova. So I'm getting that back. And then the only other book, Toxic Avenger, was on that list, and I got it already. So the only other one that I'm looking for is Tales of the Teen Titans number 44. It's the first appearance of like Nightwing in costume and stuff like that. I'm a huge Nightwing fan. Like I've always liked Dick Grayson, even when he was Robin, even when he was Nightwing. But like here lately, starting to really read a lot of Nightwing.
I heard that ever since that new writer got involved, it has really become the key series.
Tom Taylor's killing it on that series. But literally went to the flea market. I mean, that's the second series. I've grabbed a whole bunch of these for less than
nice.
They're not bad. They're good. I like it.
Okay. Yeah, I got. I just picked up. Nightwing 100. That was the issue that came out as we're recording this. Yeah.
But my main goal for this year is my ASM run. I'm a huge Amazing Spider-Man fan. I'm a huge Peter Parker fan as a person.
Okay.
So like, I really want to as that kind of where I'm like, oh, I'm a Spider-Man guy. Well, then I need to get my collection up. I need to, pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers. So I got to pump those numbers up. So I'm hitting ASM hard this year. And
so which issues are you really like? What would be like? Oh, if I can get this one issue, what would it be for ASM?
Pretty much the only. It's really funny because there's key issues and then there's key issues. I mean, you can go sub 100 and get the big boy books, but those are actually you might get 1 or 2 of those a year, and those are actually
it's big money. Yeah.
But as far as this year goes, as long as I get a 300 and a 101. I'm a huge Morbius fan. I love Morbius as a character, as a villain.
Probably a good time to pick up that book. Because the movie, like in a way, like I like it when the movies are bad if it's a book I want.
Yeah. It's great for us because we can be like, oh, now I can go get it. And I've got a few of them on my watch list on eBay. I'm watching them, and they're steadily just going down. So I'm
good time to pick up. Yeah.
So I mean, there's those. I mean, you could say, I'd love a first Punisher. I'd love a, first, I like a lot of his villains. First Scorpion, first Doc Ock, but those are like, first Craven. I'm a huge Craven fan.
Yeah.
But those books are, higher up books.
A little bit more.
I got 300 this year and fill in a bunch of gaps. I'm pretty much happy.
Do you mind getting the lower grades if it helps you just get the big book?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not opposed to, as long as, with me, it's weird because everybody has their own thing. As long as the staples are attached and it has all the pages,
Okay, yeah. That's sort of like as long as it's intact, basically.
Yeah, as long as it's intact, I'm happy. It can be a 1.8. I don't care as long as, and like I said, I don't have a lot of, I like reading a lot of stuff. I don't know how many facsimiles they're going to put out of stuff.
Yeah.
But
Well,
like, I like going for raw books because you
didn't
can
they just put out a whole bunch of Spider-Man like facsimiles, like to like some of the earlier books?
yeah, I think it was a couple months ago, just got ASM1
Yeah,
facsimile.
yeah,
And
yeah. I picked that up too. I figured.
yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you? Why
Yeah,
wouldn't you? It's
yeah,
$3.99, for a book that, if you really wanted to, even a raw copy, if you wanted to actually be able to open it and read it and look at it, it would cost you thousands and thousands.
yeah.
So, pretty much it. I've actually been running across a whole lot of sub 100s here lately. Like, I don't know, I guess I'm putting it out in the universe that I'm looking for.
Yeah. You're looking for those,
and like the sub 100s are starting to come to me, and I'm like, this is weird. I don't know
Yeah,
what's going on here.
Except for the major keys, you can pick up the sub 100s. Not too bad. Like where the
$20-$30. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And those are for good copies. I mean, you'll see, it just depends. But there's so many classic covers from that sub 100. John Romita Sr. is my favorite ASM artist.
And he's like, he's basically doing all that run. So
and he's doing all that run. So he's my favorite artist. So yeah, knocking that stuff out. That's just pretty much my goal for this year is ASM and a few keys here and there. It's looking pretty good. I've had a lot of people in the community hit me up and be like, hey, I think I have extras, or hey, I think I have, what grades are you looking for? I can, work something out with you. And so, it's actually starting to look pretty promising. I might surpass the 5 books and then start knocking into, maybe I can do 5 more, 5 in the first half.
Yeah. If you get them and then move to the next set.
Yeah.
I think as comic collectors, that's what always happens. You get your grail, and it's like, okay, what am I going to go for next?
Yeah. It's always a what's next thing. That's another thing too, is being a collector. I collect everything. I collect sports cards. I collect comics. I've got some pops. I mean,
I see. I noticed with when we were on Biggie's channel that one thing that I think is kind of convenient for you is you have your comics all there. Like it's all there. You can just grab what you need pretty quick. So so that's your man cave, right? Like
pretty much, yeah. I mean, I when I first moved into this house, I literally had, there's 3 long boxes over my shoulder here. That was my collection, was 3 long boxes. And over time, I'm like, okay, well, once I get, a good stack of books of one run, I'm like, well, it's the long boxes are full, so I would buy a short box. Because I was like, man, these things are heavy, they're huge.
Yeah, moving long boxes suck.
So I was like, no more long boxes. I'm just getting short boxes. Well, once I start getting a stack like that, and it starts to, a quarter, it'll fill up a quarter of a short box, then I'll get a short box. And so I just started doing that. And then the next thing I know, I've got like 15 short boxes, and the 3 long boxes are almost full again. I've got to buy 3 more short boxes because now I need to take some stuff out of the long boxes. Basically, my long boxes are for stuff that I haven't got a chance to read yet, or smaller runs, anything that I don't have a whole lot of. But I'm starting to need to get some more short boxes because I'm always getting more comics. So
cool. So where can people find you, and what are you up to in terms of the comic community or stuff like that?
You can find me on Instagram at Tylox The Mighty. I have a Facebook too. If you're on Facebook, you can find me on Facebook. Facebook is Tylox The Mighty. I have a channel here on YouTube. And this is the second channel that I've had. I had a channel years ago, stupidly deleted it. I was like, oh, I'm done with YouTube. I don't have a computer. I'm done with this. So I might as well just delete it. But I've started up a new channel. And I put out videos once a week as far as like books that I pick up, whether it's my pull list or it's stuff I get from the flea market. And it's a hangout show. Like literally, I'll put the link in the chat, and if you want to come hang out. As long as you don't do anything too stupid, like the guy to get me banned off YouTube, then pretty much,
you gotta be careful. But yeah,
we talk about whatever. I mean, we can talk about movies, action figure. It's just hanging out. It's whatever. And it's getting to know people. That's another good thing.
Yeah. I think that's important. Like, the geeks have to,
Yeah.
hang out, have a little community.
And, the hangout that I do, it's like usually every Saturday, but sometimes it's been on Sundays, called Hang Out with Your Hangout. And we
Okay,
play
cool, cool.
Candy to
Yeah,
Conquer.
yeah. It's cool.
So it's just a lot of fun. We hang out, we talk about stuff, we cut horrible jokes. Silver Knight Kyle's been on there a bunch, and he tells horrible, dirty jokes that only
Oh
Marine.
yeah.
So,
I traded a lot with
it's a whole bunch of fun. I'm assuming you want me to show some more books.
Yeah, you can show some more books.
Right.
Here, I'll make you
So,
big.
as far as ASM goes, that's my biggest collection that I have so far. I just recently got this. This is like the lowest number ASM book I have, besides the facsimile of number one. Mm-hmm. This is probably like one of the biggest.
Oh, it's a great one. I always like that.
I love this cover.
I don't have that book, but it's one that I was actually looking for.
I love this cover. I've loved this cover for years, and it just finally came to me this year. There's a fantasy football community, like comic book community fantasy football league, and I came in second. My first time ever playing fantasy football.
And you won that book?
And like he's like, what are you kind of looking for? Because he was going to get me a book that was, he's like, I'll either send you $70 or buy you something that's worth 70. And I was like, okay, cool. And he knows that I'm into Spider-Man. Well, he went to his local shop and took a picture of the wall, and this was on the wall. And he was like, I can get you one of these or a couple of these and send them to you. And as soon as I seen this cover, I was like, this one. Yep, that's it. Like, just go ahead and get that one. So I got that. That's huge. Pickup from this year, last year. I think it was somewhere in there.
Yeah, we're sort of at that Turner.
Been had this for a while.
Oh, that's always a great one.
I love the black suit. The black suit.
Black suit was pretty cool.
It's just sleek with the logo. Even when it wasn't the symbiote, even when it was just the suit, I just, if he would have stayed this way, I would have not missed the classic suit at all. Speaking of Todd and Image, his first on ASM. This is what started all 298. First Flash Gordon too, or Flash Thompson. Flash Thompson.
Yeah.
So
I always thought that was like one thing I always liked about Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man is his webs.
The web is incredible.
It's so elaborate.
Yeah, it's so elaborate, and it looks realistic. If you look at their webs under a microscope.
Yeah, that's how it'd be.
That's how it looks. Yeah, and I love white covers, especially if you can, get them when they're like,
clean.
Thor 337, first Beta Ray Bill, any of these I love white covers.
Yeah, they're nice. They can be really great.
Keep them that way. Everything pops. But this checks all the boxes. Look at the laser beams.
I know it's a great cover. And then there is a bit of debate whether or not that's the first actual, first cameo of Venom, right?
He's cameoing at the end of the book.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if you just get all of them, it doesn't matter. So you get 300, you got them both. It doesn't matter. But he's actually in the last panel of that book.
That's what I was saying.
It's like his hand or something.
Yeah, it's not much, but
it's not much. So it would be a cameo, I guess you could say. But that changes. This was one that I let go that I got back last year.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Bagley. I'm a huge Bagley fan. I love Bagley. Bagley did great artwork, and I love Carnage. Carnage, when he first came out, was terrifying. So
he was the scary it's just.
And then I picked this up last year. This is probably my favorite villain that Spider-Man has. I love a lot of the villains, but this one's probably my favorite. First Hobgoblin.
Hobgoblin, yeah. And that's always a great cover where he's like literally ripping Spider-Man in half.
Yeah, this is so terrifying, and this is JR. I'm a fan of his as well because when I was a kid, this was the JR that I seen the most. I do like his dad's artwork better, but I'm a huge JR fan too. And I've got this, and I've got the facsimile. This probably needs to get signed and sent off. To be honest, I'm probably going to get this signed and get this slabbed because I've got the facsimile to read now. So
nice. Yeah.
That'll be a keepsaker. So that was, that's pretty much ASM related stuff. Now, when I got older from being a kid, all the nostalgia stuff, in high school, I did a little stint where I bought books too. And the thing that pretty much brought me back was this run on Batman, the Jeff Loeb, Jim Lee
run.
Everybody at the high school, even though comics weren't hugely popular at the time, was talking about this run, and people were going out and buying it, and they were talking about it at lunch. So I started going to a Walden Books nearby that I knew had comics. Me and my friends would go, and I would con them. I'd be like, "Hey, you guys like comics, right? Yeah. Well, why don't we go to, you know?" And so we'd end up going, and every month I would pick this up. This is not from my original ones that I had in high school. I'm slowly re-getting these over time. And then I didn't collect until I turned like 29. And then I started seeing the movies that came out. And I was like, oh, Avengers is cool. All these Spider-Man movies are coming out.
Yeah,
I just Googled it, you know, comic book shops near me. And there was one 20 minutes from my house. So I went, started a pull, and I just started, you know, looking up videos on YouTube on like how to collect comics, how to like, you know, what's this thing about? So like, you know, I start running into all these great people that are still on YouTube. Some of them are still on YouTube now. But when I walked into the shop, I'll never forget this. I walked into the shop and I didn't know where to start. And the guy said, hey, and he was like, you know, can I help you? And I was like, I'm wanting to start to get comic books monthly, something called a pull list. And he was like, oh yeah. And he hands me a piece of paper and it's got lines on it and stuff like that. And I wrote three things down. I wrote Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay.
I wrote Deadpool, and I wrote Avengers. And I was like, you know what? Those are the three titles I'm going to collect. That's all I'm going to collect. That's all I'm ever going to collect. It's just
nobody ever actually does that, but sure.
And you see what has happened because of that.
Yeah.
But you know, so I've got my ASMs. I've got my Avengers. This is probably my biggest, besides the first Rogue, the annual 10. This is probably my biggest Avenger book that I have. I got this last year literally just because it's the first appearance of a character that I identify with heavily, because now I am one. First appearance of the Collector.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's issue 28.
Yeah.
28 or 26? Yeah, it's 28. Yeah, it's 28. But yeah, first issue appearance of the Collector. I'm now definitely an official collector.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think I'll ever stop now.
Once you have more than like 3 long boxes, you're a collector.
I mean, yeah, like, so I think the ship has sailed. I'm definitely a collector. So, you know, I had to grab this. I found this on eBay and it wasn't even that much and it was in really good shape.
Nice.
So I was like, you know what? I don't have any. I have like one other sub 100 Avengers book. And I was like, you know what? This is now the lowest one down that I have. So I had to grab that.
That's a cool book.
It's just a good one to have. And then, like I said, Deadpool, that was a thing. This was out of the Marvel Now run. This is like when I started collecting again and had a pull list. This was the run that was out.
That's sort of like an homage to Iron Man's
huge homage cover, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love the fact that Deadpool was drinking a daiquiri while he's wrestling with his demons.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, they had a bunch of actually really good homage covers and covers during this run. And it was a fun run. It's written by Jerry Duggan, or Dugan, however you want to say. I think it's Dugan, who's doing X-Men right now, and he's done a whole bunch of stuff. But it's also written by Brian Posehn, who's a stand-up comedian.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's a huge comic book collector, and he's been in movies. He's stand-up comedian, stuff like that. You know, he was one of the people who was, spoiler alert, shot at the beginning of one of the last House of a Thousand Corpses.
Oh, okay.
The third one. He was the guy who just, you know, they opened the door, pulled him in the room, and shot him in front of everybody else. Yeah. So, he helped write this. So he was doing writing on this.
Right. I like those homage covers. I always think they're great.
Yeah, and
especially if they're a bit of humor. Yeah, like
the gimmicks at the time. Homage covers. So also one of the things that I found out was, I was like, wait a minute, like I'd been watching Walking Dead. That was a huge series on TV.
Yeah.
Comic book store, and I looked at the new releases on the wall, and I was like, oh, it's a comic, and they were like, that's cute. So
I didn't know either. I didn't know until like after season 1, and people were like, oh yeah, it's a comic. I'm like, I have to get it.
This is not the lowest. I think the lowest one I have is like issue 26 or something like that. But it's not really a key, I don't think, or anything like that. But this cover is one of my favorite covers that I was picking up when I was picking it up. This is issue 130. It's the first covers, and I love this cover.
It's crazy, yeah. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like that scene where they're sort of hiding, and then those.
The army or whatever's walking past them. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I
then,
think it might be a nod that direction. I'm not sure because I don't think that Charlie Adler ever came out and said that it was a nod that direction. But I just love the fact of like I love the artwork. His artwork's incredible.
yeah,
The
it's really good.
inside's black and white. So I mean, this is the only way you got to see color, anything colorized.
Yeah,
Until
that's
they
what
came
was
out.
really weird. The series was done in black and white. It's very strange. Yeah.
It's really that's one of the things that kind of drew me to it was I opened it up and I read the first issue and I was like, it's in black and white because I remember the TV show got reshown like a few seasons in. They showed the seasons that had already happened before, but they reshowed them all in black and white.
Oh, okay.
They took the color out, and so they showed them all in black and white. And I was like, this looks incredible. So when I read the books and they were in black and white on the interiors, I was like, I'm sold. And I love how it's like in the rain and everything's like it kind of reminds me of Kevin Eastman.
Yeah, a little bit. I can see that.
Yeah, that gritty kind of artwork. Kind of actually a little bit Bernie Wrightson too. Like I don't know, like
Yeah.
This is the last one that I've got to show, but also movies were coming out. I was like, oh, Thor, and I'm huge into Norse mythology and stuff like that. Neil Gaiman's run on Norse mythology. I just picked up all those. I love Norse mythology. I think it's great. So I was like, okay, Thor. Well, I might as well pick up Thor. I got to pick up Thor. I mean, he's got a comic, and I'm into Norse mythology. So why wouldn't I pick up Thor? So I started picking those up here and there. This is the oldest, I think, issue. Well, yeah, this is the oldest issue I think I have, and I picked this up not knowing anything, not knowing first appearances, not knowing who did the artwork. I was just like, oh, it's an old one, and it's only like I think I bought this for like $30 or something like that. So I was like, why not buy it?
Oh wow, High Evolutionary.
Yeah, first High Evolutionary. Kirby.
That's a good price too, $30.
And this was like I said, this is like 2010. I'm wanting to say. So yeah, it was
okay,
like,
so yeah, it hadn't quite gone up.
No, it hadn't hit is stride yet, and so I was like, I seen it in the glass case, and I was like,
it's a cool cover too. I actually
really
like the
cool
cover.
I thought it was a cool cover. I was like, oh, it's an old Thor. It's a cool cover. I think originally he wanted like 50 for it or 55.
Yeah.
But since I pull from the shop and I came in there all the time and I was always buying back issues, I literally just for some reason one day just was like, would you take like 35? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's pretty easy. He was like, you come here all the time. You spend money.
Yeah.
He was like, look, let me tell you something. If there is a price on a book and you're coming here all the time and you're spending money, you can shoot me a cheaper price and I won't be offended. And I was like, and that's when my gears clicked as far as
now you can maybe
I can haggle. Oh, I can haggle on books. I didn't know this. So yeah, I had to pick this up.
I always haggle.
Yeah, now I always haggle. Even if there's a deal on the table that's already a deal, I'm still like, can you take a little bit more off? So now I always haggle, But yeah, that was the first time like I would buy books and not even know they were key issues, not know that they were first appearances. I would just buy these books and people later would be like, oh, that's the first blah, blah, blah. Had no clue.
Well, especially like, except for Wizard would tell you some of that, but it was really hard to find out what was the first appearance of certain characters, like especially the more obscure ones. Everybody knew Action One, everybody knew those books, but
Detective 27.
Yeah, those kind of ones. But like the more obscure characters, nobody knew. Like you wouldn't know, oh, this is the book to get,
Yeah. I've literally bought I bought my X-Men First Bishop. Bought it for $2 at a thrift store.
Oh wow.
And it was bagged and boarded. It's in good shape. It's in really good shape. It's probably a 9.0. Bought it for $2. Wow. Bought it. I was just like, oh, it's a issue in the run, whatever. I bought it.
It's a run filler.
Just bought it, and then I came back home, and then I was making a YouTube video on my old channel. And back in the day, there wasn't a lot of live. You just showed the books, and then people would leave comments, and like somebody left a comment and was like, oh yeah, first appearance of Bishop. That's a good buy for $2. And I was like, it's the first appearance. I had no idea. None. So sometimes naivety works towards your favor.
Yeah, I actually bought that book for cover. you know, because I bought it like off, like when it came out.
Off the rack, yeah. So
But then I think I sold it for maybe double cover. You know, like, you know, like, it was one of the books that my wife got me. Like, she had me selling my comics, and you know, that was a book that sold really quick.
Really quick. I mean, like I said, that was an era when the show was out, when kids were first seeing this show. They were first getting introduced to Cable and Bishop, and that you know, show era of X-Men. Like, everybody knew who Gambit was and Rogue was, and Jubilee and stuff like that. And these,
I think Gambit was like the coolest at the time. Like, I really loved Gambit. I was a big Gambit fan.
Like, I need to, if I go through my list of books that I want to get this year, as far as like the key books, I think I need to add both the Gambit books to that list and get, like, was it X-Men 266 or something
and the
like
annual 10, I believe it is.
I think it's annual 14.
Or 14, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I need to go.
There was like one of those, like, it's not like an early annual, it's like a later annual.
Yeah. I think I need to, you know, because Gambit was the coolest, Rogue was the coolest, you know, Wolverine. Nobody liked Scott. Nobody liked it.
So I was lucky about getting the annual. I think I didn't, like, I got like a set of annuals. Like, it was like, you know, from like annual like 7 or 8, it's all the way up to, like, you know, whatever number. And so it included that book. And it was before, like, people were really saying, oh, this is actually the first, you know, it was only. So it was like, it was not an expensive book at the time. Yeah. Like, you know, $5 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I did that with my Spider-Man annuals. I bought a bunch of annuals. I think I just was on a whim one day. I walked into the shop and I was digging through a back issue bin, and I was like, you know what? Annuals, there's not a whole lot of them out. I can knock these out real quick. And I bought like a handful of ASM first series annuals. And now some of those are starting to be worth a little bit of money. And I'm like,
I mean, used to be that annuals, nobody really cared about annuals. Nobody cared about the king size. They never, you know, all those things were kind of like,
whatever.
They're not part of the main run.
It's just a side story. It doesn't have anything to do with the issue I read last month, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's very cool. We kind of did the questions a little out of order, but it's okay. It's okay.
That's right.
But I want to thank you for coming on to the show.
No.
And I really enjoyed talking with you before and during.
We talked a lot all night. Like, it's great.
So I'm a big judo dude. I love judo, so I love talking about it. And I really want to tell people, you know, check out this guy's channel. Go subscribe to him. Go check him out on Instagram. If you like jiu-jitsu and comics, he does both. So you can go there and see both.
All my hobbies are on my Instagram.
Yeah, it's like,
you know, I collect records too. So
yeah, you get the mindset Tylox.
Yeah, Tylox The Mighty. Yeah, it's literally everything. It's, you know, my vinyl addiction, my sports cards addiction, my jiu-jitsu addiction, and my comic book addiction.
Yeah, it's quite cool. It's very eclectic. So thanks again. If anyone watching this is a cool comic collector that has a cool collection that they want to show, feel free to, like, you know, contact me on Instagram, and maybe we'll do an interview too. So thanks again. And bye for now.